What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we are jumping in with that juicy Destiny 2 news and stuff to talk about. We do have yet more content to talk about today, so we're going to touch on a mystery weapon coming in Shadowkeep, a potential new exotic. Bungie talk about new loot systems, they reveal details about strikes and changes coming to Nightfalls, a few other words about activities, and Bungie's roadmap moving forward, and how this could affect D3. So we're going to talk about that, and we get word about Solar Week from Bungie. Bit of a confirmation, so we'll touch on that first. As always guys, I hope you enjoy this video, but without further delay, let's get into it. So the first thing we should touch on right here is Solar Week. DMG jumped in, and because a whole bunch of people are still asking the question, where is Solar Week, or is Solar Week going to be a thing? And he said, we don't have plans for a Solar Week at this time. Sorry for the sad news, just giving out the facts. We haven't communicated one, nor have we plotted one on the roadmap, and if we ever do, you'll hear it from us. And it does add, don't always trust data mining, right? And of course you may have heard about Solar Week here on the channel. There is text in the game which lists a Solar Week that's linked to Lord Saladin and all of that stuff, but as I said all along, of course this isn't confirmed content. Bungie never put it on the roadmap, and some people were speculating, maybe they didn't want to add it as a roadmap piece of content because it isn't necessarily a new content event, but nonetheless, for now, we have that answer, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about it down below. Moving on though, we have some Shadowkeep things to talk about. Something worth pointing out here, we do have a hunter holding a very mysterious weapon. Of course, we've seen many of the exotics we're going to be getting in Shadowkeep, and for just a couple of seconds inside of one of the trailers, we can see the hunter wielding this weapon. So obviously a very long kind of rifle, not dissimilar to Icebreaker, or even something like Vex Mythoclast, but it doesn't appear to be identical to either of those weapons. It's kind of similar, but still unique. There are other weapons that are kind of the same, things like Polaris Lance potentially, but when we look at everything we have in D2 right now, and even weapons we've had in the past, this doesn't look particularly identical to any of them. And so maybe we are seeing a secret exotic in use in the background right here. I definitely think it's a very unique looking weapon, and also a potentially kind of Hive or Vex weapon there as well. So seeing as it's different, I thought I'd point it out, and I'll be curious to hear what you guys think it could be. Next though, Games Radar had a new interview with Bungie at Gamescom. They talk about a few things, so one of the big questions, how many new strikes are there? And Ben Womack from Bungie says there are 2 new strikes coming in Shadowkeep, one is on the moon and the other one is on Io. I'd mentioned both of these previously, we can see the one on the moon director, and we saw gameplay of the one on Io, and this one is set in the secret area of Io that we spoke about at the start of this season. So 2 new strikes confirmed, but like we saw with Forsaken, the Corrupted wasn't actually announced as a strike, we didn't know it was going to be a thing until the curse started, and so it's possible we could see a similar situation there. But Games Radar asked about new modifiers, the Adept, Hero, and Legend difficulty modifiers, and Womack says these difficulty labels are part of the evolution of the Nightfall system, so we're adding new difficulty tiers to challenge players, and that's one small taste of what some of those extra levels will be, and the activities they'll apply to in Shadowkeep. There are a lot of extra details we're not going into right now, but it's something everyone will get access to. So of course, these are modifiers that can be used in the Nightmare Hunts. They're also going to be rolled out to Nightfalls with a bunch of new kind of systems and reasons to complete that stuff. They don't give us any more details just yet, but it definitely sounds positive. In one of the Gamescom interviews on stage though, there was a question about what content solo players will enjoy in Shadowkeep, and the devs answered a whole new campaign with co-op strikes, the moon location which is focused on stuff that you can also do solo, and they say when it comes to the moon they've taken the learnings from Mars and the Dreaming City to kind of flesh the location out with engaging content for all types of players. So there'll be loads of loot to chase and work towards, and also, we're going to be crafting weapons from Nightmare Essence with Eris Morn. And so once again, this is something that all players will be able to engage in. So we'll be crafting the lunar weapons with the Nightmare Hunts as part of that loot system. Ben Womack did say that they're not really talking much more in depth right now about Nightmare Hunts. However, it is something that we can expect to get more details on. And as far as kind of activity content for next season, it looks like the new game mode in itself, or the new activity mode, the core kind of focus, is actually going to be part of Season of the Undying. So really, we're going to have to wait for a more in-depth reveal of the season itself, but that's some stuff we can expect fairly soon. Now, also on stage at Gamescom, there was a question about when Destiny 3 will come. The developers said that they are completely committed to Destiny 2 right now with an established roadmap for 2020. So for Bungie, they're working on and really having a full plan for the game in 2020. Of course, that is mostly built from the upcoming 4 seasons. However, it's interesting because Luke Smith touched on this concept of certain pieces of content kind of being refined or shelved in order for new content to come in. And so Games Radar asked the question, are you going to literally remove Gambit or Prime so that you can focus on something else? And Womack said that Gambit and Prime are both available to new light players and are not going anywhere anytime soon. Luke was speaking to the concept that at some point, Destiny is a finite thing. It's an evolving world that we're going to have to refine, and at some point, just like with the Crucible where we're changing playlists, we'll have to change up how Gambit and Prime work. However, don't expect that to happen around when Shadowkeep launches, and Deej confirmed that both of the activities will remain available throughout Destiny 2 Year 3. So for the next year, Prime and Gambit aren't going anywhere, but going back to the fact that Luke Smith said eventually they'll have to do this, it pretty much confirms that Bungie still see themselves supporting Destiny 2 in 2021, right? And so I think from that perspective, 2021 is the absolute earliest that we could ever expect a D3, but once again, that's not something that Bungie are talking about yet. Either way, Gambit and Prime aren't going anywhere in the next year, and it certainly adds weight to the fact that Bungie see Destiny 2 being supported for at least 2 more years. So let us know what you think about that. But back to Shadowkeep and other loot systems, Games Radar asked if any of the mods on seasonal artifacts are going to be added to the general mod pool, and Womack said there are currently no plans to do any of that. We're trying to get the Season of the Undying out with lots of these changes, and we want to see how players react. And he finishes by saying taking mods from the artifacts isn't off the table, but there aren't any current plans for it. They also ask, some players are worried about grinding for mod drops because special mods like Hive Armaments are currently very rare, so how difficult is it going to be to get enhanced or pinnacle mods moving forward? And Womack said there are mods that you can get only through certain grinds and certain pursuits, but most mods are required in a very simple fashion. So there's a huge drop of mods that everyone can get access to, and once again, mods are no longer consumable, they're collectible, but other mods that are going to be right in front of your attention are the ones that'll come out of the seasonal artifacts, and you get those simply by leveling up the artifact, getting XP, killing enemies, doing bounties, missions, and activities, including Crucible matches, so all of that will gain you XP that will level the artifact and let you choose a new mod. So that's pretty cool, and they ask if they're going to be doing anything special with raid gear to help it distinguish from normal gear, and Womack said that some of the sets in Shadowkeep, the raid gear being one of them, will have an extra mod slot specifically for that activity. So just like the Leviathan raids, you had special mods that dropped in there, so there'll be specific raid mods for Garden of Salvation as well, and they're going to be equipable specifically in that raid mod slot. And so there are going to be a few different options there, and they do ask the question of how many power levels will artifacts actually give. So Womack said that artifacts have no limit on how much power they can give you. As you get more levels, they'll cost more and more XP. So players are going to go through a similar climb to what they did in Forsaken. You'll hit the soft cap at 900, and then gear through pinnacle activities will be the kind of focus until you reach around about 960 power, but after that, you can go even higher with the artifact. So once again, they'll say it really comes down to how much time is in the day and how much work players are willing to do. But remember, at the end of Season of the Undying, the Eye of the Gatelord artifact will go away, so all power that you earn in the artifact, all of its bonuses, everything gets completely reset. That is with the exception of the gear that you've accumulated with power equipped to it. We can also see here that the power bonus unlocked via the artifact is actually displayed on the overlay for it, so lasts until the end of Season of Undying. This one is currently offering a power bonus of plus 14 power. So that gives us a bit of an idea of how that will work. Here's an update on finishing moves though. So somebody asked, do these work in PvP? And they also said the heavy ammo finisher mod would be pretty lame in the Crucible. But Deej confirmed finishing moves and their perks do not work in PvP. So finishers are a Minions of the Darkness deal only. I'm not sure if Bungie had already said this elsewhere, but yeah, you won't be pulling off crazy finisher moves inside of the Crucible, at least not at launch. Let us know what you think about that. Obviously, some of the bonuses definitely would get pretty complicated in PvP, and there is also the general gameplay flow and whether that could really work in the Crucible specifically, but here's something else. Finishers can be used passively. So of course, you can opt to use a mod, and whenever you equip a mod that gives you a bonus, so heavy ammo drops on a finisher kill, for example, that mod is going to have a specific super energy cost for the finisher. But you can opt to use no mod, and then the finisher is basically a freebie. It's just an over-the-top animation for a normal melee attack, but if you do that, it won't have a super cost. And so if you want to do it for pure style, then you absolutely can. But here in the press kit, we can see the indicator above enemies that are able to be finished, so that's a better look at how they'll actually appear. There's a question here about the Well of Radiance, because of course, we know that there are going to be some adjustments to the game, so they asked, is it going to be nerfed into the ground? And Ben Womack said, I think it's going to be balanced a little better so that it doesn't create a situation like Reckoning had at launch. But again, This is us looking at what players can do and finding the right way to make sure that customization actually matters. If the choice is to only run Well of Radiance strategies, then you always have to focus your build around that, and that's not a good player choice. That's not a choice at all, it's a mandate. So if something is at the level where it feels like they're gonna have to nerf it, then maybe that's what we have to do, but that doesn't mean it's the only thing that we're doing. We want to make sure everything feels appealing and like a choice that actually matters. So just a few insights into how some of these sandbox elements are going to be adjusted, but we're not getting specific numbers or anything just yet. The final thing they asked about in the Games Radar interview was whether it was scary putting information in the director's cut out there for the community, especially at a time when parts of the community will seize any negatives and hold them over the devs' heads. And Deej jumped in for this, so he said one of the things we're reinforcing this year is that we have always had a strong relationship with the player at Bungie. I can say this as somebody that came from the Halo community to go and work for the company. We want the people who play our games to understand who we are, why the game is important to us, and what we think about it. Obviously, Luke has very important duties as the person leading the creative vision for the franchise, but from time to time when he can step away from that and pen 12,000 words to really invite the players into our thought process, that's valuable. There are going to be certain things that we'll tell players about how we think about this world, a world that feels as real to them as anywhere else in their imagination. I think transparency is what our core fans crave. They want to know why we make the decisions we make, and they want to know what motivates us to change the world that they're living an important portion of their lives in. So while we might be delving into topics of conversation that might become controversial or potentially negative, overall, what we sensed is that people appreciated the fact that we were being honest about how we feel about making the game that we make. So just a pretty cool insight there. Really, Bungie, of course, do have to consider the marketing element of the game, but as Deej is saying, they value that relationship with the community much more than the potential drawbacks of having that level of communication. And of course, if we can see that level of transparency moving forward, then I think on the most part, it's going to be a really healthy thing for the game and all of the players. But let us know your thoughts about it. Let us know where you'd like to see more of that kind of feedback in the future. However, for today, guys, that is everything we have to talk about in the video. So lots of conversation here. Let us know what you think about the strikes coming forward, any changes to the Nightfalls, as well as the kind of endgame and progression loot systems that we're seeing. I always love reading what you guys think, but if you've enjoyed the video, a rating below really helps me out. And if you're new around here, be sure to hit subscribe to see a lot more Destiny 2 content. For now though, as always, thank you for tuning in, guys, and I hope you have an awesome day.